Well, let's turn our attention to the food delivery sector. According to Enterprise Singapore, the Land Transport Authority, and Singapore Food Agency, demand for food delivery services has increased by up to 30% since the ban on dining in kicked in on April the 7th.
Customers, delivery riders and F&B operators more are hopping on the food delivery bandwagon. But some riders told journalist Toh Ting Wei that their earnings have dropped despite the added business. Let's get Ting Wei in on this discussion. Now, Ting Wei, in a story over the weekend, you wrote that some riders' earnings have dipped by 60%. Is it a result of demand not meeting supply?
Yeah, I think that's the main problem because I think we all would expect the demand to go up during this time. And I think it definitely has gone up. But the main issue is a kind of an oversupply of delivery personnel. So a lot of riders have talked about this MOT policy of letting private hire drivers and taxi drivers to join the food delivery scene and like parcel delivery scene temporarily. So for this, it has added quite a number of like riders. So in terms of like Grab itself, they say thousands have signed up to do Grab food delivery for private hire drivers. So you are looking at thousands there alone. And then so they will kind of increase the supply by quite a bit. And on the other hand, even for those who are riding bicycles and motorbikes, there are quite a number joining as well because I mean there have been people whose jobs maybe they have lost their jobs or they are freelancers without any maybe projects now, or even people on no pay leave. So some of the riders have thought about these people joining the food delivery scene. So there's quite a surge in the number of people joining. And on the other hand, there's also the issue of because like now there are more orders, but then I mean the restaurants can only move so fast. So the way some of them have thought about the waiting time increasing at this point as well. So like when to pick up an order, maybe they would need just 10 or 15 minutes last time for the restaurant to get it ready, but now they need maybe 40 minutes or something like in different cases. And the last point is like when you have stores, because like quite interestingly, some of them mentioned how McDonald's was quite a big source of orders from them. So when McDonald's had to close, the number of orders had anecdotally dropped. And then for bubble tea and other food, maybe like cakes, all this, they also contribute to some number of orders. So when these stores close, the number of orders get affected as well. So demand is growing, but not as at a fast rate as the supply is growing.
Right. Well, Tingwei, it sounds like this is happening across the board, or do you think it's just hitting the riders who choose to work less hours for safe distancing reasons?
So for this, I've asked the major food delivery companies about it. So for them, they didn't really say there was a noticeable drop in the income of the riders. So like, so they said they don't see that. But for the riders I've talked to and the group chats that I'm monitoring, it seems like it's quite across the board that the income is dropping. So the range of how the income drop is different. So sometimes like some riders told me 20%, then after that another rider told me like even up to 70%.
Wow.
So all this I think it depends on the area they are working in. So I imagine like for different areas there's also a different impact. And also I guess like on the flip side, if you look at it for the private hire drivers and the taxi drivers, their income previously during the COVID crisis was almost nil because nobody were taking the cars and stuff. But then for some of them who have gone to food delivery, I've talked to them and they have said like how now they are able to cover their costs and stuff. So I think it's kind of a two-way thing. Like some people lose, but then on the other hand, for the drivers, it's quite important for them to cover their costs in this period as well.
All right. Tui, just for context, how much of a boom has the food delivery sector seen in this COVID-19 time?
So I think across the board in terms of the riders joining and in terms of the F&B outlets joining the platform, we have seen an increase. So like as you can see on the screen now for GrabFood, there's a 80% increase in weekly applications for people trying to become delivery riders since March, and Deliveroo has had the same number. So and Deliveroo has come out to say that they expect to get another 2,000 more riders by the end of June. But one thing to note, like to these numbers, I mean they seem quite big, but then again for the riders, they are not exclusive to one platform, and most of them they don't really just sign up for one platform, they sign up for like 3 platforms. So I think the actual number might be a bit lower, but it's still an increase. And for the restaurants, since January, so there's been two spikes in the numbers. First time is that after the COVID outbreak, more restaurants started joining all these food delivery platforms. And in April, after the government announced the circuit breaker measures and the ban on dining in, there was another spike then. So I think the spike was quite big because restaurants now, they don't really have a takeout option. They have to turn to food delivery.
Well, Ting Wei, you also spoke to infectious diseases specialist Dr. Leong Ho Nam, who has been on the show a few times, and he considers delivery riders to be frontline workers as well. So, are there measures in place to ensure that this group doesn't become a weak link in our fight against COVID-19?
So I think the main measure that the delivery operators across the board have taken up now is the using of contactless delivery. It basically just means that the rider hands over the food to the customer without directly interacting with the customer. So like different operators have slightly different variations. But let's say when we talk about Deliveroo, for example, their guideline is that maybe they can put the food bag 2 meters away from them in front of the house, and then the customer comes out to take the food, and then after that the delivery rider go and take the food afterwards. So for this, Dr. Leong has said that it will help in terms of reducing the chances of spreading. So that's the main precaution. And we have other precautions that apply to, say, the rest of Singapore. Compulsory to wear masks, sanitize hand regularly, declaring their temperature. So it's not fail-proof in the sense that, like, even though they have to declare their temperature, I mean, like, it's quite hard to enforce it's quite hard to enforce it in the sense that, I mean, they can declare their temperature without having to have someone look at the temperature to verify as well. But then I think I would like to think most of them are quite responsible about it as well, because for them it's their livelihood. And as one rider mentioned, they don't really want to do anything that will affect their job, because I mean, like, for some food delivery riders, like if you suddenly have a group of food delivery riders who were sick and the news came out, people will be afraid to order food delivery as well. So I think for the riders, most of them do recognize that it's kind of their responsibility and it's their livelihood to protect. So I think most of them do abide by these measures.
That's a good point, Ting Wei. We've been speaking to the Straits Times journalist Toh Ting Wei on the food delivery industry in a time of COVID-19. Although it's experiencing a boom in business, individual riders aren't profiting. So thanks so much, Ting Wei, and you can share your thoughts in the comments.